Hi, this is the Change and Grow Wellness Show, the show for you, the busy professional who wants to live a healthier, happier life with increased energy and productivity. And this show is powered by the amazing Women and Men of Power Positive program. So tonight, we are talking about how to resolve anxiety for good. And we have our guest, Shane, who is a trauma and anxiety specialist. But I'm your host, Jackie Grant, and I transform busy female professionals' hormones and habits without giving up chocolate and wine, calorie counting, spending all your time in the gym. So we have Shane on, and he's going to tell us all about him. I'm not going to tell you one little bit. I'm going to let him do that tonight. So, Shane, tell us all about you and why you do what you do.
So my name is Shane Haron. I've been involved in personal development for over 13 years now. Started off as personal trainers and nutritionists, ran that business very successfully. And I've always sort of been in self-development or sort of personal growth, developing other people, helping other people do the same. And there were some points with personal training clients where we'd get an amazing transformation where they just wouldn't see it themselves. So they could lose all the weight, they'd look like a different person, but they still didn't change their beliefs and identities about who they was themselves. So I knew it was like a mind issue versus a body issue. And then through my own sort of development myself, I never knew I had anxiety. I'm not one of those sort of people that that says I've got this or got that sort of thing. Typical bloke, don't ever go to the doctors for anything sort of thing. And I actually went to A&E sort of twice, where I was just sort of sitting there sort of thing. I wasn't doing anything. It was just at home, had a really tight chest, couldn't breathe, heart beating out my chest sort of thing. Didn't really know what was going on sort of thing. Called NHS Direct. A nurse on the phone, and she said, if you can get down to A&E sort of thing, get down there. And this happened sort of twice, a couple of years apart. I didn't really pay it too much attention. So I didn't really know what anxiety was at the time. Yeah. And they ran all the tests both times. They ran all the tests. One was even at New Year's Eve. So I spent New Year's Eve in A&E sort of one time running all the tests from my heart. And after all the tests, they ended up saying, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. So they said it was just stress and anxiety. And then last year, or sort of the year before that, one of my friends, he started doing hypnotherapy and psychotherapy. He started he was playing around with some things when he came to visit. And I could tell that he was doing something with my mind, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So it intrigued me. And that led me down the path to sort of studying a lot of the hypnotherapy and psychotherapy things, a lot of the things based in neuroscience. And since then, I've been working with clients and essentially, the easiest way that I could describe it is if you've got any stuck feelings or emotions, because emotions always recycle, I can get rid of them. So typically I like working with trauma anxiety. People have got stuck emotions that feel like they can't move on from something. So typically whenever you get an emotion, you're not experiencing emotion when it's live in that present moment. You're experiencing all the times you've ever experienced that emotion as you do now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now I do that. I see people for trauma anxiety, chronic pain, phobias, fears, all sorts of things. But now that's typically a lot of the work that I do. And I just really enjoy helping people transform their bodies and minds that way.
Brilliant. That's great, Shane. Yeah, you are so right, because it is, when you work with people around like that kind of transformation, as you were saying, it is that, they look like a different person to you, but sometimes they haven't moved on in terms of how they feel about looking like a different person. So yeah, it's really important to look at your mindset and other mind things that are actually, impacting on you as well, in terms of that change. So tell us exactly, what is anxiety?
Anxiety on a basic level is a faulty fear response. So if we were as cavemen thousands of years ago, that fear response, we'd see like a saber-toothed tiger, whatever, our fear would accelerate, and then we'd get really sort of scared and we'd run and away from the threat. So it's like a threat detection system. The thing is, most of our sort of threats nowadays aren't typically to our physical survival. So for example, if you was to walk across walk across a motorway, you should feel some anxiety, you should feel some fear, because your life's at risk. But most of it nowadays is when you think about physical security, instead of it being physical security, a lot of it's emotional security. So when you think of emotional security, you've got to think of your insecurities. So, for example, if I had if I felt anxious about public speaking, it's not so much the public speaking which is the issue, because it's my thoughts about it, my perception of it. So the fear is of the feeling that I might feel. So, for example, if I was public speaking, the fear might be that I might mess up and get embarrassed. So really, and typically what happens is you would have experienced some level of whatever the emotion is in the past. That would have spiked up and encoded in your brain. Anytime you experience a highly emotional event, it encodes in your amygdala, and then it creates these little receptors. It potentiates, creates these receptors that sort of sit there waiting. Now, every single time it notices a sort of certain trigger, which could be a clue where it might happen again, activates those same feelings over and over again. But a lot of time it's where we don't listen to our body to be like, what is the anxiety trying to warn us about? What is the emotion that we're trying to avoid feeling? Because we just go, oh, this feels, oh, I don't like this feeling, we're just trying to move away from it. But when we avoid it, we teach anxiety that, well done, you've done a good job, because we stopped going towards that thing that might have been a danger, rather than just going, it's okay, it's not a danger, and just waiting for it to pass, because it always passes.
Yeah. So I remember telling you about going up Sagra Familia and actually, you know, feeling the wind, and then that anxiety came about. But I never had that anxiety before. So it was really strange how that actually happened. Do you see what I mean? Because you know, then having to sit there and everyone go past, but was another thing. But then having to talk myself down from that was really, really, you know, it was like I was sweating, my heart was beating, and it was like, the thing was, I was sheltered because I'm going down that thing, but I still felt all that anxiety. So what? How does that kind of, you know, is that still that response, even though I never had it before?
Well, typically we're not born with anxiety. So somewhere along the line in your life, you might have experienced something that was similar to that event, or sort of the situation that you was in, so that the landscape, where it might have been height. So you might have felt a place where you were sort of scared, or your fear sort of went off before. And then now when you're noticing it, you could have then reactivated that fear. Or it could be a belief where it's passed on from someone else. So say, for example, imagine you're sort of 4 or 5 years old, your mum sees it, you don't know what spiders are scary or anything, because you've never experienced a spider before. You don't know what a spider is, good or bad. But your mum sees a spider, she freaks out, she gets really, really scared, and inside your brain, you now believe and you now learn that spiders are scary.
Yeah.
Some things can be epigenetic, so you can actually sort of pass down trauma and anxiety from your sort of parents and further down. Same reason, I don't know if you've ever seen on YouTube when you see those cats with the cucumbers.
No.
So people put cucumbers near cats, and then cats freak out and jump in the air because they think it's a snake. Yeah, and
oh wow.
These are house cats. They've never seen a snake before in their life, but for some reason, this built into their DNA, and it's been passed on from generation to generation. Sometimes that can happen with fears and phobias. There has been studies that sort of show that, but chances are there was part of that experience when you was up in sort of the cliffs or where you was, which reminded you and reactivated and triggered a certain fear from before. Sometimes it could be the same thing about heights, or it could just be about your safety. So where you didn't feel safe. So the idea with anxiety is, there's a really good sort of analogy that I found the other day, and it basically says that when a bird's sitting in a tree, it fears not about breaking the branch breaking, because it has complete trust in its own ability and its own wings in case it does. And unless you ever take that leap, you never learn how far and how high you can fly. And it's the same with anxiety, because we try to control our situation. We try to control everything to make sure nothing bad happens. But the goal isn't to stop anything bad from happening. It's to know within us that no matter what happens, we will get through it. Because you have done. You've survived up until this point. So you know that everything you've been through, you survived. And obviously you wouldn't be here if you didn't. Yeah. So it's all about sort of not sort of trying to avoid dangerous situations, but know and have the self-esteem and security and confidence to know that whatever happens, you're going to be okay. And typically, until you sort of clear the root of the anxiety, so you'll have a faulty fear response, So whenever you sort of get triggered, you're going to go straight to that fear response, that fight or flight. Some people, where they've been sort of triggered for so long, it's because they've become so good at it, they get really good at anxiety. They're stuck in that fight or flight thing. So everything's potential danger. They always feel on edge, and eventually, if it carries on like that, it develops to agoraphobia, where you can't even leave the house. But it can be resolved. Typically, I mean, the recipe of anxiety, so say if you're feeling anxious in the moment, is what I've called the 4 Bs. So the 4 Bs is one, the belief. So the belief that there's a danger or that you're not safe. So if you sit there and just go, it's okay, I'm all right, I'm safe, it's generally going to help you sort of calm down. 2 would be sort of body. So I don't know if you've ever seen an animal hurt or injure themselves. They just shake their body off. Any sort of wild animals, typically when they get hurt, they shake the trauma off. And one of the reasons why is when you are in that fight or flight mode, a lot of the blood goes from your organs into your arms and legs, which is the same reason why a lot of people with anxiety suffer from IBS, a lot of stomach issues, digestion issues, because their blood is always in there. They're in fight or flight mode all the time. So if you shake your whole body out, that's the second one. B. Third one's breath. Anxiety, your physiology creates your psychology, psychology creates your physiology. As above, so below, and so on. So anxiety can only exist with shallow breathing. So if you slow your breath, breathing down, literally even just and just slowing it down. Anxiety cannot exist with slow, deep belly breathing. And then the fourth one is brain. So you can create bilateral stimulation through sort of like passing something from left to right hand. So you can literally pick up like a pen, grip it in your hand, head still. You're going to go hand as far out to the right, cross it over, go out to your left, and with your eyes watching it without your head moving. That creates bilateral stimulation. And what that does, it sort of stimulates both hemispheres of your brain, calms down the activity. Anxiety typically can be sort of 2 types of overstimulation of the brain. If you're someone that thinks a lot of the negative thoughts, so you're someone that sort of catastrophizes things, there's too much left brain activity. If it's someone that more experiences the physical symptoms, like the panic attacks, things like that, it's overactivity of your right brain, your right hemisphere of your brain. But either one of it, if you sort of do bilateral stimulation after you sort of calmed all those other sort of 4 recipes, you break down those 4 Bs, anxiety cannot exist in that moment. Now that's a really good way to resolve the trigger when you're feeling triggered. But ideally, you want to think, what is the message of the anxiety? Like, what's the emotion that I'm trying to avoid feeling? So is it scared? Is it embarrassment? Is it like sadness? Is it, you know what I mean? Whatever those feeling is, and then ask yourself these 2 questions. Is this a familiar feeling? Which it probably is, because it's not the first time you felt that emotion. And then when's the first time I can remember feeling that emotion? And if you can think of the first or the worst, if you think about it, imagine in your mind and it triggers you, that it's possibly that could be sort of the main root of your anxiety. And then through things like the psychosensory techniques or psychosensory therapy, such as EMDR, blasts, TFT, the havening, all of those sort of things, they will sort of de-link the emotional link to the root cause.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I know
brilliant.
I've been sort of grabbing
that. That's brilliant. So
hopefully it clears up a little bit.
That did. So, Shane, tell us about one of your clients that has come to you with anxiety, and tell us from start to end in terms of a case study, really.
Okay, so I had one guy that had anxiety quite bad, and sometimes you got to always think that anxiety's always got a good intention. So the behavior is always to keep you sort of safe or happy, typically safe, because it's your fight or flight sort of system. There's a reason why you're having it. And he didn't have anxiety for his whole life, sort of thing, and all of a sudden then he had his children. And then his anxiety got so bad that he couldn't plan anything. He couldn't plan anything at the weekend, because as soon as he planned it, the worst case scenarios, things would pop up in his head. He would think, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? He'd have all these sort of scenarios playing around in his head, and he was massively worried. We sort of had a few sessions, and the thing is with the sort of my type of work, one of my mentors taught me that it's never a case of does this work or not? Is the work complete? So sometimes we've just overlooked things, or we've missed certain aspects of it. And what it come down to was that growing up, his mum was a worrier. So she was always worrying about him. and his grandma was a worrier. So the parents always worried about the children. Now, he didn't have anxiety his whole life, but he created a belief system, because up to the age of sort of 7, 8, 9 years of age, we're only in subconscious dominance, and we're like sponges. We create sort of our beliefs. Anyone that's from an authority figure, typically parents, teachers, anyone like that, if they sort of like tell us that this is the way things are, or you are this, you create an identity that becomes sort of who you are. But he created this belief, and we sort of got to the bottom of it, that his mum was a warrior, and that's how you keep your children safe and your family safe. Because if that's who does the worrying, that's who keeps people safe. And then what happened is, he didn't have anxiety his whole life. Kids came along, and then he started worrying. He started sort of having this anxiety, and then it was related to sort of to things with his mum. It resolved those through the psychosensory sort of therapies, getting rid of the emotional links to it, and it was gone. Since then, it's been good as gold. Literally in that sort of one session when we found out what the root is, it's figuring out, going backwards and sort of going to the root of it, because otherwise you are only going to treat the symptoms. Anyone that says anxiety is not fully recoverable, doesn't know what they're talking about. It can fully be recoverable. It's just knowing the right access to it. Managing symptoms is you're going to be doing that forever, but you've got to think of it like, imagine there's a weed growing out of in your garden. You could sort of chop the weed and lawnmower it all you want. It's going to keep growing back. You want to get to the root cause of it, you know? And the thing is, with most people nowadays, we're so stressed. It's your sympathetic nervous system. So it's like you're sort of accelerating your car. We go 100 miles an hour, but we don't practice using the brakes. We don't activate our parasympathetic nervous system. We don't really know how to use it. So it's like we're constantly on go mode. And often we just need to sort of slow down and realize how to slow down. And a lot of times, creating the bilateral stimulation and calming down that fight or flight response, where your body then gets used to, I am okay, I am safe, there's nothing wrong, is what people need to practice. And then that's where things like the meditations, things like that sort of can come in. Humming is really good. It sort of strengthens your vagal nerve. Have you heard of your vagal nerve? It connects from your brain to like pretty much every part of your body. It's a sensory sort of nerve, senses information. But when you strengthen that, increases your parasympathetic nervous system. So things like humming, singing, chanting Om, like the Om chants. For some reason, whatever, if you can sort of test as well. If you ever do those heart rate variability tests on your phone, you can show how good your heart rate variability is, and that sort of signifies how good your parasympathetic nervous system is. And a lot of people just don't have the resilience. They've never built up the resilience to deal with stress or to deal with trauma or to deal with anxiety. So a lot of times, some therapists out there will work on the anxiety or work on the trauma and things like that, but they get re-traumatized because of their landscape. They've not been able to build up the resilience over time, which obviously can be done through time and through experience. Whew. Sorry, you can tell I'm passionate about this. I love helping people. So, next question.
It's all good, Shane. It's all good.
I like to over-deliver.
I could definitely tell. I could definitely tell how much you're passionate about it. It's really amazing. I was just going to ask a question about so that client, in terms of them actually finding out that it was something from the past, you did some questioning in order to get to that.
Yeah.
Do you find that easy getting to the root cause?
You mean you need good active listening skills, good intuition, sort of think, okay, it might be sort of this. But one of the sort of techniques I use is you basically directly communicate with your subconscious mind. Now, it can speak through you, but we won't sort of go there. It can freak too many people out.
Don't.
That is a type of hypnotherapy. But instead, we just do sort of IMRs. So IMRs are idiomotor responses, so small micro movements. So you see right now when I was speaking, you're agreeing, you're nodding your head. Now, you wasn't consciously thinking, I'm nodding my head. It's your subconscious mind is agreeing and it's going like this. I do this really weird thing sometimes when I'm on these courses. When I'm learning, I'm doing this, I'm rocking. and I'm not really realizing I'm doing it until it kicks in. I realize I'm like, shit, is anybody watching me like rocking away sort of thing like an idiot? But it's just your subconscious mind. So you can set up communication with it. So typically you can do it with your fingers or like a forward lean, but say like now, can you see my fingers?
Yeah.
So I'd say if my subconscious mind is there and it's happy to talk to me, please lift or move one of my fingers to signal yes. So that little finger there is moving. So I'd say, okay, thank you for that yes sign. If you could pick another finger in the same hand, signal no. And you see my middle finger go in the same hand. And then you'd then be able to ask it questions. But it's obviously now only got sort of a yes and no response. Yeah. So then you sort of, you're kind of playing like detective, playing to on questions or get an idea from it. But sometimes you can just say, look, can you, if there's a reason why, because you've got to think there's always a positive benefit behind it. There's always a positive intention. Any behavior you do, even sort of when you're addicted to food, you're addicted to drugs, things like that, you're getting something from it. Typically, it's making you feel better, instant gratification, because your subconscious mind, its goal is the short-term solutions away from stress to make you happy. So, for example, I know that for myself, to people with emotional eating sort of things like that, I know that if I'm working at home on the laptop and I'm feeling overwhelmed, sometimes that feeling of overwhelm, I'll end up going through the cupboards and just searching. And I know there's nothing in there, but I'll search anyway. I'm not even hungry. And it's just away from me. My mind's just gone, oh, I know what will make Shane happy. Let's go get some sort of food. And we're in our sort of like our unconscious programs 90% of the day, you know. We think we're in conscious control, but we're typically not. We're always typically using our subconscious mind. And sometimes you can literally just ask it, bring it to conscious awareness. So do you remember when this program started? So say like if we said, we speak to part, we might say, I'm going to speak to the part that's creating this anxiety. Would it come forward, signal yes, and give it yes, and said, thank you for, obviously you're doing a positive job or trying to do a positive intention behind it, trying to keep them safe. Then you might say something like, this fear response is getting a bit too much. Like, I know you're trying to keep them safe, but the thing is that you can't keep yourself safe if you're clouded by emotions. Because once your emotions, imagine you've got your left brain and your right brain. Your left brain's the logical, rational side. Your right brain's the emotional, imaginative side. Once your emotions are high, that brain's taken over, that part of your brain's taken over, and you can't use your logic and rationality. So you actually become very crap at problem solving. And it's only when your emotions calm down that the logic, rationality can come up and then be able to solve your problems. So it's kind of like, the analogy I use is, when you see fire, you don't feel a burning sensation in your body to know that it's a dangerous thing. But with our mind, it does the same thing with our emotions. If we've been hurt in the past, or we felt a very strong emotion that we felt was negative and we didn't like it, whenever we see something or someone speaks about something which might be related to it, we'll get triggered. It would trigger those emotions to try and keep us away from that thing. But sometimes our subconscious mind doesn't realize that it's trying to do something good for us. It's trying to keep us safe, but we don't need to feel the emotion. We only need the knowledge, the understanding, and the sort of the know-how to sort of keep you safe. We don't need the emotions behind it. So, for example, sometimes someone could have anxiety about agoraphobia. They might not be able to leave the house. A lot of times it'd be sort of a safety thing. So they might have experienced some form of trauma, or they might have been sort of mugged or something, go outside. And because their emotions spiked, their mind's gone, okay, outside is dangerous. So we don't like going outside. Sometimes the trigger might, if you got robbed down in a dark alley, every time you went near a dark alley, you'd instantly feel those same symptoms and the same feelings. Whenever we feel emotions, like I said, it's not a live, well, you're feeling the live emotion, but you're also feeling all the times you've ever experienced emotion before. So anyone that's ever experienced, or if you ever sort of overreact emotionally to something, you're not feeling the emotion there in the moment. You're feeling all the emotions you ever felt. So chances are, imagine like, say you've got like an emotional tank. Imagine you've got like sadness tank. If you've experienced really high levels of sadness before, your tank's filling up. Now, whenever you get activated that sadness, it's already activated at like 90%. So you're going to activate like a 9 out of 10 level sadness instead of like a 2 out of 10 sadness that might be more appropriate. But you can empty all those things out through this sort of psychosensory techniques, as I sort of mentioned earlier. They're a sort of really great way to learn. I pretty much mainly use that and the direct communication with your subconscious mind to resolve pretty much most issues. But I really enjoy helping people let go of emotions and things that are stuck, because the transformation you see with someone it's a beautiful thing to see, and you see someone grow and change so much, because a lot of people have this. I've been sort of trying to sort of create this service or this program in my mind. It's called 100% You. So I want to make it more accessible, because people like myself, I want to help more, sort of, especially like with men, they suffer from depression more than anyone, but they don't reach out. That's why the suicide rate's the highest. Suicide kills more people my age than heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all those sort of things. Suicide is the highest thing for men sort of my age. And the thing is, they don't want to sort of reach out. But sometimes with, say, like where I might advertise as a trauma anxiety specialist, it might put people on the back burner. I totally get that they might go, well, I don't have that. It's just a label. It is just a label. But basically, if I was to say to someone or say to you, do you feel like you're living your 100% best version of you? Are you being 100% you? Are you living at 100%? Chances are most people say no. Now, for you to get to 100%, you need to empty out all the negative feelings. So all of your negative beliefs, all your sort of negative identity, things like that. I had a guy sort of come in today who is a cage fighter. So this isn't just sort of people that you might think is, that you might think people need fixing. Like I said, there's only two people in the world: people that have got problems and people that pretend they don't have problems. Everybody's got some problems, and this guy that come in, he wants to be the best that he wants to be at. He wants to perform at his ultimate, but he knows there's certain sort of fears and beliefs that are holding him back. So until you can clear all the negative, and your negative beliefs are only powered by emotion. You're not born with negative beliefs. You're not born out the womb and go, oh, I'm not good enough. You don't know that. You only know, or you think that you're not good enough because of your experiences that have spiked the emotions that power it. But once the emotions have been dealt with and they've been removed or been released, your logical rationality mind can take over, and it can apply logic to it and go, well, it doesn't make any sense anymore. It completely smashes the whole negative belief. And then that's the first stage of the release work of the 100% You program. And then it's about then rewiring your mind in case you ever get triggered again. That'd be like the homework. And then after that, it's about sort of who do you want to be? Who do you want to like create in yourself? A lot of people think life's about finding yourself, but it's more about creating who you want to be. Because we'll have these beliefs like, say, I am this thing. So whatever your belief is, your mind's going to look for evidence to support that. We don't like to challenge ourselves. So we just think our beliefs are our beliefs. But we're not who we are. We're just who we are, what our experiences are. So you can completely create who you want to be. I'm not saying that you can go completely from one personality to a different, because you'd probably be maybe schizophrenic, maybe. But you can change your behaviors, and sort of your outcomes. And I sort of honestly do believe that all of our problems are just going to continually be there until we deal with them. So we're made to deal with problems. That's why you see some people that repeat the same cycle of their behavior over and over again. If they're someone that sort of always ends up in bad relationships, you see him and you'll be thinking, how does this person keep finding these people? Like, I know loads of people. I don't know that many bad people, but one person might be dating this bad person. The next person will be bad. The next person will be bad. You think, how do you do it? And it's these unconscious programs that are in power. And because they're in power, they'll keep playing until you learn that lesson, until you learn how to resolve that thing. And my honest belief is that when we're not here, when we pass away, we'll come back to this life again and we'll repeat the same problems until we learn, until we resolve things, So
that doesn't sound very good.
No, but you can resolve your problems, And like I said, there's 7 billion people in this world. I honestly don't think there's no chance that you can have a problem that no one's solved before. I mean, obviously there's some sort of medical marvels and things like that, but on a general basis and day-to-day basis, the daily stresses and daily problems that we might have, there's no chance that someone else hasn't resolved that problem before out of 7 billion of us in the whole history of mankind. So a lot of people just and that's the thing with things like depression. Depression is where you kind of feel frustrated because you feel like you can't make any progress. You've just given up because you've tried to fix something which you don't like in your life, and you failed, and you tried and tried it again. You just can't seem to see a way out of where you're at. So you just give up. You just shut down. You just completely stop bothering. And it's not so much like a sadness or depression. It's just like a complete apathy where you don't even think you've got the ability to do the most basic of tasks. But typically there would have been some experience that they might have had in their life where, again, it's amplified an emotional state. I don't really like labels like trauma, anxiety, depression. I think it limits people a lot of the time. Especially if they've been to a doctor. I've seen numerous people with chronic pain such as fibromyalgia where The doctor said there's nothing we can do. You're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. The only thing you can do is take painkillers for the rest of it. But all pain is a signal. So you break your leg today, it means don't put any weight on the legs, recover, rest, and go to the hospital to get it solved. But if you've got chronic pain that's ongoing, that it's been long enough where you've had enough time to resolve it or to rest and repair it, there's no reason for that signal to be there anymore. And if anything, holding on to that signal is going to block the new signal. Or say if you used to get a new pain, imagine if you had lower back pain, chronic lower back pain, and you thought, okay, this is it. You might have a new back pain in the future, which could be resolved, but you're not going to think it's the new one. You're going to think it's the old one. So holding on to old pain can be quite dangerous. Yeah. Often it's not listening to yourselves. People with fibromyalgia, they always are very lovely people. They love to help everyone else, but they do not listen to themselves. So they don't slow down. They don't rest enough. They don't activate that parasympathetic nervous system. They always go. And it's just their body's way to try to stop them from moving. And they notice if they stay in bed, they rest, their pain levels go down, and then they'll get a flare-up. And the flare-up is just where they've done too much. But through this sort of direct communication with subconscious mind, you can turn the pain off completely. I've had sort of a few clients. The only time where it would come back is because you're not listening. So, example, your mind will go, okay, we'll turn this pain off, but you need to start listening. You need to start taking it easy. If you go back to the same behavior you went before, you're going to then all of a sudden create the sort of chronic pain again.
No, it's definitely a lot to think about, Shane. I mean, the thing is we know that we need to be a bit more aware of our body and how it manifests different things, and what we need to do is just be a bit more mindful of our body, be a bit more slow down, and that's in anything that we do a bit more, in order for us to actually make ourselves feel better in so many different ways. So Shane, what are your final tips in terms of anxiety that you can give our audience?
So the final sort of tips I would probably sort of say is sit with it. I kind of think of it as like imagine you're just going to jump in a cold shower. So you jump on, it's freezing cold. You're like, oh, the more you sort of resist to it, you're still going to go, oh, it's cold. Yeah, you're going to start noticing it's really cold. But the more you just go, okay, this is it. I'm getting in it. I'm going to just commit to it now. The feelings typically go in and you adjust. Now we've got this ability to adjust. But with anxiety, people sort of have that fear because they don't want to lean in, they don't want to listen, they just want to run away from it. Sit with it, figure out what the message is, what the signal is, what is the emotion I'm trying to avoid. And then whatever the emotion or feeling that I'm trying to avoid, so not just anxiety, because it's just a fear response. What am I trying to avoid? Sort of thing? What's the emotion I'm trying to avoid? Figure out what the thought is that's creating it, because it's not the situation, it's the thought about the situation. So, for example, I could sit here, if I had a meeting in 2 days' time, and it was about a public speaking event, possibly, I could be sitting here getting anxious about it. Now, the public speaking event isn't happening right now, so it's not the event, it's the thoughts about it. So the thoughts about it are powering it, but it's the feeling that's powering the anxiety, because I don't want to feel embarrassed. So you've got to think, what's the feeling that's driving the anxiety? What's the thoughts that are driving the anxiety? And then think, what is the first time I've ever experienced that feeling, or the worst time I've experienced that feeling? And if you think about that experience and it triggers you, there's a good chance that that could be the reason why you're creating this. And then you can use bilateral stimulation, eyes sort of left and right. I like this one where I just go 1, 2, 3, and while you're doing this, eyes going all the way left, all the way right. And havening is literally, there's a few ways to do it, but wiping your face, wiping your arms. You can sort of do that for about 20 each time. Hands, eyes left and right. Now you do that, check in back with the anxiety. So then after you've done that, you go through a round, go back to the thought that was triggering the anxiety and just check in with it. It will go down or gone completely. So just keep going through the rounds until it goes completely. And if you've got any triggers, you'd write down your triggers, figure out what all the triggers are, and then think, what's the common thing? What's the common theme in terms of the emotion? Sometimes it can be different emotions. Sometimes people have generalized anxiety where they just don't know what it is. And if it is, all the sort of bilateral stimulation or say like behaving touch will completely calm down that stress or that fear response. So once you've calmed down that fear response and activate your parasympathetic nervous system, you won't have that anxiety. anxiety is triggering your sympathetic nervous system, but we don't know how to practice our parasympathetic nervous system because there's so much pressure, there's so much stress nowadays. And I said this to Rachel, my other half, the other day, that the one word in the English language that's probably the cause of most anxiety is should. It's like, I should do this. You know, I should really lose some weight. I should be more successful by now. All these sort of should. Who invented this idea? You know, you're not born with a manual that says, here you go, these are the things that you should do. It's just society. You know, you see all these other people on social media. The problem is now that sort of 10, 20 years ago, you'd only compare yourself with the people that you're local to. You'd only compare yourself to the neighbor. But nowadays we're comparing ourselves with the richest of the rich, the most beautiful people in the world, and they're like the top 0.1%. And, you know, we are all different. We are made to be different. We're not made to keep up with this. Stay in your lane, and, you know, whatever you're doing is going to be right for your journey. Just have faith in yourself that as long as you're sort of doing your thing and growing and worrying about yourself, don't worry about anyone else. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. You're on your own journey. If you think about like the people like Walt Disney, the woman, J.K. Rowling, all these sort of people, all these famous people that got their break later in life. So we've got these young 20, 30-year-old or teenagers that have got really bad anxiety. No one's got this shit figured out. You know, you will figure it out as you go along. The biggest thing that you can accept with anxiety is that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. So don't ever think that we're trying to avoid any negative scenario situations. Ideally, you'd like to avoid negative things, but every negative experience that you're going to go through is going to be an opportunity for growth. And you're only going to learn and build your self-esteem and your confidence by going through it. It's one of the sort of like only sort of, it's the best teacher's experience. And the only way you're going to challenge your beliefs is by looking for the opposite experience. Otherwise, and then obviously breaking down the experiences you have had any negative experience with the bilateral stimulation or any of the other things that you can use. So hopefully that's sort of helped some people. If anybody is interested, I've got a free anxiety toolkit where it basically explains, again, the 4 B's of anxiety, but it's also like an anxiety guided meditation. So it's made for when you go to sleep. And when you go to sleep, you're sort of pretty much in one of the most receptive states to learn and change your sort of mindset and change your wiring. Your subconscious mind is always listening even while you sleep anyway. So you listen to it while you sleep. I guarantee you within 1 to 2 weeks, those anxious thoughts will calm down. So you can find that sort of on my sort of Facebook profile, which I'm sure there'll be a link to. Yeah, give it a go. And if you do have any questions, just give me a shout. I'd be happy to help people, you know.
Brilliant. Shane, can you just tell us your website and your Facebook profile as well? That'd be great.
My Facebook profile is Shane Haron, Trauma Anxiety Specialist. The website I'm rebuilding at the moment, but if you type in shore.by/Shane, so shore.b/Shane, there's a few sort of links there to my guided meditations and links to my coaching page if you want information about the coaching as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Shane. It's been really, really informative tonight. I'm sure people have got loads of takeaways from that tonight. And, you know, definitely go onto Shane's website and download his free toolkit and, you know, give it a try. You know, if you're suffering from anxiety, definitely give it a try. Contact Shane. He'd be happy to talk to you if there's anything that he can help you with. So guys, thank you. It's been the Change and Grow Wellness Show, and I will see you again next week. Take care.